So your watershed is the LA River, right? Los Angeles River?
Yeah.
What's left of it?
It's more of a tourist recreation spot. You can have there's concerts there now, but it still functions as a river whenever there's rain, which is pretty rare. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. And hello, JGC. What mountain are you showing there? Big lover of mountains, being our sacred headwaters. Mount Drum in Alaska. Nice. Yeah, I lived in Alaska for several summers. Welcome, Ian.
Hi.
Where are you located? What's your watershed, Ian?
So I'm in Alachua County, Tumblin Creek watershed. I'm actually at an Alachua County EPA meeting, but I also wanted to check this out.
Oh, good. Yeah. So I'm not familiar with where that county is. Where is that county? I'm Ian. I'm not from Gainesville. Okay. Great. All righty. Well, we'll start things up here. Usually when I start these meetings, I try to get us to come into sort of a deeper connection with our water. So I'm going to invite us to just close your eyes for a minute and breathe. And really feel that the breath you receive is the ocean rarefied. That our atmosphere is our ocean lifted off the ocean into the air, which gives us the blessing of the atmosphere, which is our climate. As it moves in its dynamics, it creates the climate. It is the marriage of the power of the water and the power of the sun that allows that atmosphere to support life. Without this atmosphere, without our liquid water, we would either be arid Mars or gaseous Venus. So we are in that Goldilocks sweet spot in our solar system that allows life to flourish. And so as you breathe, feel that lineage of how long we have been in this atmospheric perfection of the Holocene. It allows not only life to flourish amazingly all over the planet, but humans to thrive. And as we breathe this life force in, we allow the energy of this to charge the cells of our body, coming in through our nose, into our lungs, into our heart, and moving through our body as blood. And remembering that, except for a very few exceptions, all of our blood is red. All our blood is the same color. It's the same liquid magic that happens in our body that allows us to be in these bodies It allows our consciousness to activate, to think, to feel, to dream. And as you feel this, feel it in your body, feel the moisture in your mouth, feel the moisture in your eyes, feel the sweat on your palms, and really allow yourself to be that molecular water inside of our bodies and transpiring off our bodies. And as we breathe in and out, our water is entering our environment, commingling with other breath. And knowing now that water holds an magnetic memory, we can imprint our water with our intention. We can be a co-creator in this process of creating intention to be carried on our water, to be carried on our breath. And what is your intention for this morning? Just take a moment to breathe that forth into the world, knowing that it will inform your immediate environment, but it also, as there is only one water on earth, will inform all the water on earth if we give it that intention. Think of one word, and I invite you to return to your seat where you are in your room. Come back from this place and bring that one word with you as to what your intention is that you breathe into the world today. And I invite us, popcorn style, to speak that word. I will speak mine, which is peace. Deep, abiding peace. No one is obligated to share, but it is an intention to speak this and add that vibrational frequency of our voice to this intention that allows it to actually amplify when we speak it, and we give our sound to our thoughts.
The word that came to me was nurture.
Nurture. I love that.
Entropy.
Entropy.
My word was also peace.
Mm.
I'll share health.
Health. Lovely. Thank you, Diogo. Hello, feeling. Mm-hmm. Hello, Blanche, Lyons.
Yes, hello everyone. How are you doing?
Well, so we are sending peace of this water to Goma. We send peace to Goma in the Democratic
Thank
Republic
you so
of
much.
Congo.
Thank you so much. I get it.
Yeah, receive it. Yeah. So understanding that it is without water, there is no peace, right? Without without that core essential source necessity, humans will not have peace. And the same goes for food and shelter and community. Like there are some very essential pieces of our existence on earth that are just required, and for there to be peace, for there to be health, for there to be nurturing, for there to be entropy, and all the other sort of essential elements. We need water. We need water that is clean and nourishing and nurturing. And so at the heart of the WaterUnity Network is really recognizing that water goes even beyond a human right. Like, yes, water is our human right to have water, clean water, but it goes beyond that, and that water is source, not resource. And
Is the source of the life.
that is the source of life. That's right. All life. Without liquid water, we would be Mars.
If there is no water, everybody will die.
Everything we have,
Yeah.
our technology, our books, our movies, our everything runs on water. And yet we fail to give back to water. There's not the reciprocity that returns our care, our culture of caring back to the source of life, to take care of our water and to cherish our water as if all life depends on it.
Exact.
So at the very heart of the WaterUnity Network is the idea of cherishing water as our watershed communities, which includes all life, not just human life, but all life, because it is all interconnected. You can't pull out one thread from the giant hairball of humanity, of life on Earth, the complexity, without recognizing that you're pulling threads away. So the intention of the WaterUnity Network is to manage the complexity of cherishing water as if all life depends on it, and to manage the complexity of our task at hand, because the human dysfunction is currently knocking the planetary hydrologic cycle that creates our climate out of balance to such a degree that water cannot recalibrate it fast enough. So water is constantly seeking homeostasis, constantly seeking that balance. And that is what is the climate, as the dynamics of life on Earth and the atmosphere interacts with itself. It creates the climate. And to recognize that since the beginning of the Holocene and this relatively benign climate that we've had for, approximately 10,000 years, humans have been impacting this hydrologic cycle. Like as we begin herding animals and they begin eating in where we put them rather than in natural herds where they move around of their own patterns, we as humans put them in one place and we eat the vegetation down to the nub, and then we move on, and without replanting, right? So this cycle, or when we cut down trees to grow crops, all of that impacts this whole system. And we're continuing to do so, but we're continuing to do so at such a rapid pace and deforesting the trees of the vital forests of the Congo Basin of the Guinea Highlands, of the Amazon, of Southeast Asia, these very key planetary reciprocities, because trees return, trees give back to life. And it's that return of the trees, of the vegetation, that keeps the planet cool, that keeps the soil moist, allows the rain to soak in and recharge the aquifers, and trees give off aerosols and bacteria that attracts the rain. And it's all this amazing process that we as humans in our dysfunction are altering to the point where we're at a tipping point now. The tipping point is not in 5 years. It's not in 10 years. It is right now. We are at the tipping point. And so there's many, many, many people that are waking up to the realization that we must do something, that it is our responsibility as the human species, and all of us contribute to it. Every single one of us, as we breathe, as we consume, we are contributing to this process, some to a greater degree than others, certainly. And certainly the indigenous people are those that still remember that we are integral and essential elements of this cycle, that humans are part of it, not separate from it. And to remember that water does not come from the tap, it comes through the tap. And I have been a water advocate, protector most of my life. My mother was a water protector in her own fashion before that word became known, and saved a beautiful canyon from development back in the early 80s. And so I've always been aware of our need to care for our water. And what I see is the gap that is missing is the ability to coordinate and coordinate our collaboration. It's really the collaboration and our ability, like a hyper radical collaboration, that allows humans to work together to solve this crises of turning the tipping point to abundant, thriving life rather than collapse into inhospitable earth. And that is where we are right now, that this is the tipping point. And with every fulcrum, we can go either way. We're at that point of that fulcrum point where we can go one way or the other. And I believe that our that our evolutionary imperative as a species is to work together in hyper radical collaboration, but we need a coordinating system to do so. And that is where I feel that the technology of the DAOs and the blockchain and the Web3 really will serve a purpose, is to allow us to create this hyper radical collaboration. But we all know that in trying to co-create things, that chaos is close behind, right? That it's really challenging to coordinate people. And so my vision that was given to me in 1992, actually by a gray whale, and that's another story, but it's a good one, showed me that we need this collaboratory system, and that water itself has already been coordinating life for as long as water has been on Earth in a natural pattern, and that pattern is the watershed. That the watershed is how life is coordinated, how water is coordinating life. And so thus was sort of born the concept of the Watershed Wisdom Councils. And this is the conceptual element of the WaterUnity Network, which informs the formation of the network, is the sort of navigational charts of the Watershed Wisdom Councils. And so the watershed, the tagline that I put in the title of this is internally aligned, which is what we did at the beginning of this talk. It's just super simple. Taking a breath, giving thank you to your water, remembering that we are water and that there's only one water on earth. Like that really is truly the key. That's all it takes in my, that gratitude and appreciation and reciprocity just to give back our love to water. It really works miracles in my experience, in my life. And then the second part is locally empowered, in that local communities are the unit of global transformation, that without that community cohesion, the larger entities have no foundation and no guidance, and the smaller entities of the individual does not have enough power in togetherness, in unity, to be able to make much happen. So really the community, as I see it, is the workable unit of global transformation. And that's where that localism comes in, is really strengthening our local, where we live, where we care about, the people we care about, the water we care about, the trees we care about, that we really step up and take care of that. And it is shown that that if we can revive our local water cycle, that impact then ripples out and informs the watersheds around it bioregionally, that then ripples further out. And if just, modularly, we could improve where we live and work on that, even if it's just as simple as cleaning up our rivers, right? Getting the trash out and making sure that we're in integral, intact ecosystems. That works tremendously. But then that bioregional connectivity is super important, because what is happening upstream impacts us downstream. The quote that really sort of lit my light bulb way at the beginning of this whole process was, "Do unto those downstream of you as you would have those do unto you." This is a quote from Wendell Berry. And the other is that relationship is the currency of every living system. And that currency is the current, that the current is the currency, that when currency is in movement, in like one of our dysfunctions is that the current is being hoarded and it's turning stagnant, and that it's being held by just a few members of the population and not moving throughout the system. So really, this is how I see that the blockchain really comes into importance, is that ability to move the currency of the current of our lives in a way that creates thriving abundance for all life. And then the last one is the globally networked. And that is where our collective intelligence and our solutions repositories and our wisdom libraries, and that we could really be creating this knowledge bank, so that someone in Costa Rica could go to Guinea, West Africa, and say, what are they doing that works, and vice versa. And that we really see that the climate bands around the world need similar solutions, right? It's going to be a different solution for tropical Costa Rica than it is for boreal Alberta, Canada. That the climate bands of the planet really dictate the solutions that are needed to restore the ecosystems. And so recognizing that the climates are, the latitude of the planet from the equator, north and south, they're matched, but also recognizing that the currents of the ocean follow these bands. Like a lot of the desert and the tropics are side by side often in cases, and it has a lot to do with the ocean currents and how the ocean currents lift up the atmosphere, that lift up the rain to fall, and where it falls and where it moves when it falls, and how well it's retained by the earth once it falls. And so the idea of our urban, like we're becoming more and more paved. We're paving the planet, right? We're creating impermeable surfaces all over the planet. And so the water is not sinking in. And the water needs to sink in order to create the environment to create rain. If it doesn't sink, if it only runs off, then we're actually diluting the planet, which is thus changing the currents. Like the Gulf Stream is weakening because there's so much fresh water pouring in that the thermal haling cycle is weakening. And that ability for the Gulf Stream to run up the eastern side of the North in America and going into the Arctic and back and forth, that whole cycle is weakening. And so it's a big picture. But if we can break it down into the manageable pieces of first ourselves changing our own relationship to water as the source of life, not as an exploitable resource, but as the very source of life, and the community, and empower those people that are doing the work within the community, then we're really able to make the impact that we need to make on this planet in time. Because we do have a small window of opportunity, because with the fulcrum, we can teeter-totter, but at some point that it's going to slam, right? So we need to recognize that right now we are on the teeter-totter, and we need to connect the dots. And so that is the idea of the WaterUnity Network and the Watershed Wisdom Council concept, but recognizing that this is just conceptual frameworks that could really fit into any protocol, into any platform. It's more a heart space. It's more an individual evolution of ourselves to be able to say, okay, I'm going to champion this. I'm going to look around and see what needs to be done in my own watershed to the extent that, I can manage. And as I see it, small group councils between 7 and 14 people is the ideal number to be the most effective and be able to get the most done with the least amount of sort of interpersonal conflict and dispute. And so that's kind of my spiel there. And I would love to pause and really open it up for people to share kind of what this wakes up in you, and how these navigational charts could serve your work. Like how could this help you be more effective in the work you're doing in your own communities? So I pass the mic and would love to hear from you.
I can start. Thank you so much, Eliza.
Thank you, Eve.
Yeah, thank you. The first thing that I want to share is that I just returned from a trip to Glacier National Park in Montana with my family, and it was just so incredible. Such a beautiful place, and also to be in the presence of the glaciers was really, really moving. And thank you, Eliza, for all that you have shared and given to me in these past like month or so about the water and the spirit of water. It was really so powerful to to meditate with the glaciers and to connect with, to put my body in a glacial lake and just receive those blessings. It was very profound. So thank you for that. Yeah. And
Yeah, we have to keep our glaciers.
yeah, we need the glaciers. And yeah, it's interesting because even the park rangers themselves would say the glaciers are gonna disappear. And I just felt such a strong conviction that they're not gonna disappear, that we can reverse this.
Yeah,
And
beautiful.
that the glaciers will still be there.
Ooh, I got chills on that one. I mean, that is the biggest message that I'm getting from water itself. Like when I meditate with the water, it's always yes, yes. And mostly it's allowing water. Like COVID taught me how quickly a watershed can restore itself within months, right? If just allowed to. Yeah, so we do have it within our power. And this is it. It's gatherings like this that just allow us to affirm that we can return to our intact ecosystem and biomes.
So I was invited here by Michael. I'm actually at the Santa Fe River Springs Protection Forum at UF-IFAS, so this kind of overlapped, but it also runs for almost the whole day, so that's not too much of an issue. I was doing some research into the water conflict, and it seems that a needs-based framing is much more powerful than a rights-based approach, because rights can be taken away with, the legal system, and people say, oh yeah, business as usual. It's more of an adversarial, legalistic approach, but no matter what phrase you say, you can't say, oh, you don't need water. If you approach it from the framing of needs, then that seems to facilitate agreement.
And our bodies remember that need, right?
Yeah, I also wanted to ask if any of you have had experience talking about water in conflict areas, like Egypt, Sudan, or something.
Yep, Leonce in Goma, Democratic Republic of Congo, is in that right now. Leonce, would you like to share a little bit?
Yes. Can I speak?
You can speak. Yes, we hear you.
Okay. I'm very happy to be with you right now, and I'm very happy with the program of WaterUnity Network, because that program fits with our activities, what we usually do in communities here in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I think we will develop many projects to protect environment, projects to protect climate change, and to improve agriculture, the water to give the water in the community. So that's what we do every day with communities. And I shared you a document. I don't know if you remember a document I shared you that you can share with others in this meeting. then they can see what we usually do.
Yeah, can you speak a little bit about the fact that you have conflict, right on your back door, and the refugee situation and what's happening there?
Yes, for the refugee situation, for now, I was there last week. I told you I was there to make a bus line, and the bus line it concerned how we can give the food and non-food and the water to those who are in the camps. But for now, we are looking for the support, how we can support children who want to begin the schools now. So there is like 800,000 person who are displaced in the camp, and they are in a big in need. So their situation is not good for the moment. So we have to bring some responses.
Right. And to recognize that the water infrastructure before the refugees started coming into the area was insufficient already. And now it was not enough before the refugees. And now it's really putting pressure on the water management and being able to take care of the water because there's so much more need.
Yes, for the water, I don't know if do you remember the video I shared with you?
Yep.
As you
Yeah,
can see in that video, as you can see in that video, you will see that I around in the camps to collect some informations about their situation of access to water. And till now, they don't yet. We don't have no solution till now.
Yeah. So, Ian, do you want to ask any questions of Leonce with regards
Well,
to your?
have you observed people fighting over it, or how and then how have you been able to diffuse or prevent people from fighting, or rather build friendship between the people who were fighting?
Yeah,
Do
yes.
you understand the question?
Can you repeat the question, Susanna? Eliza, I don't understand very well.
Yeah. So the question is, you are in a conflict zone, and people are fighting. Are they fighting around? Do they also fight for the water? Are you seeing people fight for the water?
Yes.
And how do you try to resolve that conflict?
To resolve the conflict according to the water, it's only to make the sensibilization to make sensibilization to tell them that they can't make conflict with water, and there is gun, there is a bomb, there is war. They have to stop, because if they continue to fight, what can I say? One or two families who want to take the water, they don't. What can I say? They meet the water. It's not sufficient. It's very little.
Yeah.
And then
So
we try to talk with them to show them that they mustn't make conflict with water, but we are going to bring some solution about that.
And I would think that when there is water, that solves the conflict. When there is
Come
enough
again?
water, when there
There
is
is
enough water, that
no enough
resolves the
water.
conflict.
You see, in the family send kids to take water. So if they meet an old the old one don't give him the place for taking the water, so we talk to them to be patient, that we will bring solution on that.
Yeah.
Have you seen people who were fighting become friends?
Yes, I saw them.
So how did they become friends?
How
Yeah.
I try I oh, we have our how can I say, our organization has some people who work in the camp, and when they see that there is a conflict, they bring them together and they talk to them to let that conflict.
So dialogue.
Yes, we make a dialogue with them.
So how do you make friends in the Democratic Republic of the Congo? Like how is what's the friendship culture like? Is there differences between the refugees or not really?
I don't understand the question.
My understanding, Ian, is that the and Kareem is here also. Kareem, if you want to help translate for Leonce in French.
Is Karim here in the meeting?
Yes, he is. Welcome, Kareem. So what I understand, Ian, is that the people, the residents, the permanent residents of Goma are welcoming, are doing their best to welcome the refugees in, right? But if that pressure becomes too great, then it becomes harder to be welcoming. Kareem, can you translate for Leonce what Ian is asking?
Well, how do you befriend someone like building trust is what I'm asking. Like,
Yeah.
do you make meals together? Do you play games together? Do you share stories? That kind of stuff.
Kareem, can you translate?
Maybe Karim has a
Okay,
problem with his network.
He's here.
No, I can. I think this last words I have heard it. Donc, il demandait juste au niveau du camp là-bas, est-ce que les gens ils font des activités ensemble, ils racontent des histoires et ainsi de suite. Est-ce qu'il y a une sorte de cohésion, voilà, de comment dirais-je, de partage, etc. Est-ce qu'il y a ça là-bas?
Oui, les gens partagent, ils sont tous des déplacés, et ils partagent vraiment, ils partagent tout, mais seulement quand il faut puiser de l'eau dans les robinets, des fois parce que l'eau n'est pas suffisante, des fois il y a l'égoïsme. Il y a l'égoïsme qui vient dans un. Celui-ci dit, oh non, c'est moi qui vais puiser. Celui-ci dit, non, c'est moi qui vais puiser. Alors, c'est à partir de cela qu'on organise des dialogues pour leur dire que non, même si l'eau est insuffisante, vous devez quand même partager la quantité qui est disponible.
Yeah. the answers from Leons. He said that, of course, in the camp, people who are there, they mostly they share everything. But sometimes there is a problems about water distributions because people they do have different behaviors, and some have egoistic behaviors. As the quantity of water that is provided is not sufficient for everyone, sometimes it happens people fight for water and all that. But also there is a structure over there who try to communicate with people by bringing a positive dialogue, by showing to everyone that, yeah, at least they can still share everything. The quantity of the water that they have there, they can, even it's not sufficient, but at least they can properly share it so that everyone can get something. That was the answer from Leons.
Okay. And one of the questions that I understand Ian was asking is, what activities do people actually participate in that helps to build the trust between the refugees and the residents? Is there any
Like
specific
specifically
activity?
fun. So instead of trust, the word is fun. So
Yeah.
what do you guys do together that is fun and enjoyable?
What do you do for fun to build trust?
Voilà,
Can
la
I ask a
question, Monsieur
question?
Léon, c'est de savoir.
Yeah. Can you pause for a minute? Michael has had his hand up for a while. Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you. I'm all about, here, let me turn my camera on so we can see me. And in fact, there's the creek that, one of the creeks that goes past Washington. And I wanted to kind of bring it in, but, and it's one of the places that I try to enter into a more attentive relationship. It's Rock Creek is its name, or at least its western name, and it is a tributary to the Potomac River that empties into the Chesapeake. I wanted to kind of there are conversations about poetry and plumbing that can happen around water, right? And DAOs are very much about plumbing, which isn't always so sexy to many. But I wanted to make sure that we didn't lose the opportunity that we have in this summer of DAO to activate the wisdom of the community that has knowledge about these plumbing elements, if you will. And so I love, by the way, just to elevate, not only did I love the Wendell Berry quote, and I love how you made it your own by saying "do unto the water," rather than, because his quote is "do to people downstream," as you would have those upstream, and it keeps it in the human loop, right? Mediated through the water, but still human to human. And by adapting it, maybe you were intending this, maybe you weren't, to say "do unto the water," you were recognizing something other than the humans in the equation, and that's kind of one of the things that I had me kind of jump in. Humans matter, and we can take up all the conversation with humaning, and that can be one of the challenges. Another aspect is that there are hidden arrangements that are sometimes not always evident, and how do we see things that we might not have been seeing before. Last thing I'll say about poetry, and I promise I'll not talk too much longer, was that you said water is coordination of life, and I thought that was brilliant, because one of the things that DAOs are about coordination, and they are about and life actually does coordination. The emergence of new levels of being and the emergence of new levels of competence arises in the intercoordinating. And so making friends can be a way of doing that, but you don't have to be friends. You can actually work with people you don't like and still get stuff done. And so it can be a false, you can care about the same things and still find a way to collaborate because you care about the same things and not because you want to braid each other's hair.
Right.
And I think that's an important aspect to recognize, that we really want to care for each other, but we don't have to like each other, which is you know, is kind of confronting to some people. It's like, oh, what? So so coming back to this coordination, you know, this idea of how do we see flows more widely? How do we see flowing dynamics? How do we talk about and develop vocabulary so that we can coordinate? If it's going to be, you know, I'm on my creek and somebody else is on the creek next door, and you know, how do we intercreek, and how do we,
Right.
you know, there's a explicit dynamic around water that is where the water is flowing on the ground. And then there's a second dynamic, which is the water flowing through the air invisibly, that has other rhythms and other patterns, but is also what you're talking about. And
Yep.
so, you know, finding ways to label the flows and to coordinate across these in new and beautiful ways. And so I love the work that you're doing, and the relational foundation of it all. And
Mm.
and just want to, I know it was a little impulsive to jump in there, but I realized we had a
Well,
time limit, and I
yeah,
wanted to make
you
sure
bring
we,
up
yeah.
definite important points, and to respond to that, there are many dimensions to a watershed, right? There's also the water moving under the ground, inside of the ground, and there was the water moving through our bodies that still is moving through the system, just in terms of what we drink and our waste, right? And to bring that to a coordination level, I recognize what you're saying, that we don't have to like everybody we're working with. That takes a degree of evolution to be able to truly function with people that we don't necessarily like. And what I've called the sort of first formation is what I call the covalent core, which is the first three people that really are the ones. First, there's the champion or the hero that comes in and says, okay, I'm going to create a covalent core. And the covalent core are the three core people that hold the three sort of essential roles. And that from that covalent core, once they've really, and I do feel that within this sort of first layer of the concentrics of engagement, trust is needed. Like, yes, we will work with people we may not like, but to really be efficient, it really is helpful to trust the people we're working with. And so I call them the covalent core. And then that covalent core creates a circle of trust. And that circle of trust may not be a full-on council. Like, the council is more really like, okay, we've gone through our growth, we've onboarded the people, we know what our priorities are. Then they become a council. And once they become a council, they become a DAO. And that formalization of being a DAO, they can then become an economic entity for that community or their members. And there's then another layer where somebody can be a member of the group without being, like, without sitting on the council, without being sort of that governance structure. And then one of the keys to this whole thing is that every DAO then sends a representative, which I call the plenipotentiary, to, and this is one of the key roles, is to interface upstream and downstream. So they, and that's aggregating downstream, as a priority. Like, yes, speaking to those upstream, but the role downstream is important because that's really where that confluence of councils begins to come together and allows the voices upstream to be considered and heard. And so this pattern of coordination is following the flow of water and this aggregation. So I'm on Squirrel Creek and I would send a representative, and there might be 2 other councils on Squirrel Creek, depending on the size of it. But those send a representative to the South Yuba confluence of councils. And then the South Yuba sends it to the Feather, right? And then the Feather sends it to the Sacramento. So we're aggregating our judgment and our wisdom and our influence and our impact as we reach the deltas, where it all comes together. And then I envision what I've called the Oceanic Parliament, which is the ocean quadrants that I started to describe, once a year, really taking into account all that's come into the Parliament, and collaboratively with those voices being heard and considered through those plenipotentiaries, can return the abundance back to the headwaters and start the cycle again, like rain. So that's the way to kind of answer what you're talking in terms of coordination, Michael. The Watershed Wisdom Council has that blueprint, and I'm going to put in the link a Google folder that has a lot of these diagrams and documents collected that people that want to go deeper into this can. And also to say that the WaterUnity Network, as I said, is a hyper collaborative organizational framework that is currently emerging in the WaterUnity Network, which is a network that's broader than just the WaterUnity Network. And we have our little central atrium or hub inside of the World Water Community, but the atriums could be created in other platforms as well, so that this could then scale up and replicate across many different platforms and it doesn't need to hold the same name, right? But it's the idea that we're beginning to build these mycelial networks that are connecting the dots of the people that are actually doing the work and building that bridge between our talk and our inspiration to the coordinated action. I would love to open it up. Eve, I'm not sure if you finished what you were wishing to say. We kind of jumped off and went a different direction, but yeah, if anybody else would like to share or speak.
Yeah, I have to jump to another call, so I'll speak quickly. Thank you, Eliza, as always. And Michael, would love to connect with you as well. So I have made an account on Eliza's WaterUnity Network hub and portal. And I'm in New York, and I am in the process of forming a Water Wisdom Council here. Eliza, Betsy and I have been communicating and are planning to meet for coffee. Yeah, thank you so much for making that connection. I'm so excited to meet her. And I know of some other water champions, water heroes locally where I am. And then just wanted to share, it feels important for me to speak this, that New York City completed a land swap deal in May for the Brooklyn waterfront, which is the biggest land deal that New York City has done in 20 years. And now they're moving forward with plans for the waterfront development. And they have stated and pledged to involve the community but there are lots of questions about the transparency and the process already, and it's just begun. So it feels like a really, really important time to be connecting with the community. There are so many stakeholders in New York who care about how this plays out, but I think that it's so important. And thank you again, Eliza, for continuing to reinforce that like the water knows. The water knows what
Yeah. And Eve,
should
I'm coming
happen.
to New York for New York Climate Week, and
Oh,
would
yay.
love actually to enlist you to help me to find a space to hold a session or two, if you know of good community gathering places that we could. There's also the Eco-Restoration Alliance, which is a close ally of the WaterUnity Network. So you and I can get on a call. And then also, Michael, if you're still on, you mentioned Israel, Palestine. I am very involved with a woman who is very involved in the peace element of that dispute that is so horrendous. She's Israeli, but her family is Palestinian, so as well. So if you want to get deeper into the invitation you just put in the chat, then let's talk about that, because they need help. Just even getting the narrative back that most Israelis want peace. So thank you all for this call. Invite you all to go to the waterunity.life is my website, which will lead you, or the worldwatercommunity.com. Both of those will sort of lead you in and help you dive deeper into this emerging current. And Ian, if you would like to speak more with, we've lost Leonce, but if you would like contact with Leonce in terms of what's happening there in Goma, I'd be glad to connect you. So I'm going to put in my email before we go, and you can contact me here. And if anybody else wants to put in their email, we can continue this conversation, because there's lots to be done and lots more to be shared. And yeah, my dog wants to go out. And I will collect this chat and include it in our transcript, which Josh, I'm guessing you or someone else will help us get, so we can. Great, awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful, wonderful call. Truly appreciate your presence and your genius. And really, I see the role is just to connect our genius, right? Because we all have our bits of our piece of the puzzle is what I call it, the piece of the piece. So blessings to everybody. We will continue.
Thank you.